Hi all, just want to give some quick tips on how to crew for the chimeras. And I see just because a lot of people are asking, and then I can make one video and direct everyone there. Not that I mind answering questions, it's any time I'm available. But just while I'm not there, you can check the video, it'll be there for future reference, and then you can take a look. The chimeras are on day 2 of the Sarris invasion fleet. They are just north of Federation space. They are non-armada, non-hostiles, and I'll say why that's important now. They are above. They are over here, and you can use Gorn eviscerators to potentially reach higher than what you would be able to with your ship that you want to be choosing. So, what you're wanting to be doing with these is you're wanting to be scoring the highest damage. There's two things independently you want to do. One, you want to kill the highest ones that you can kill, and that's just for your loot. And your loot, most of your loot is going to come from a box. The box is called a survival. It's a survival chest. It's not necessarily even about killing it. Killing it doesn't give you the loot. It's about surviving 10 rounds. But you will. With the crews I'm going to give you, you're going to kill them, no problem. You're going to kill them before you would die. So the reason you're doing this is, and the two independent things, one is being able to kill the highest one so you get the loot. Two is you wanting to be able to look at this event called Chimera Wrecking. It's a regional SLB. It lets you. This is where you're going to get the majority of your eye patches, which will help you get your Gwen shards, your unlock your NSEA, etc., etc. And what you're going to be doing for this is you're going to be doing your the highest damage in a single round Delta Chimera's it'll score. So one thing to notice is isolytic damage does not count. So you want to remove all isolytic damage that you have for the Chimera wrecking part. I'll go to the other part later on where isolytic damage is actually very nice. So you're wanting to be doing the two things and not necessarily together. You want to do one. You want to hit it as hard as you can, do as most damage as you can. If you die, sort of okay. You just want to score one set of high points here, and I'll give you crews for that. And then for the rest of it, where you're just doing your Sarris invasion fleet, is you want to be doing as high of these chimeras as possible, and you wanting to survive it, not necessarily kill it. Although, as I said, with the crews I'm going to give you, you're going to kill them before you last 10 rounds anyway. So, with that said, those are the two aims of this. They are independent; they're not necessarily at the same time. And let's get into some crews. First thing to be aware: anything that says versus hostiles, versus non-armada hostiles, won't work. Anything that says versus armadas won't work either. What works is something that affects both. So, for instance, if we go to this, increases mitigation overall. That will work. If we go to something like, as we had there, let's set up one of the crews that I was doing. Okay, so one of the strong crews, one of the basic crews that you're first going to have access to, is going to be something like this. It's going to look something like this. And let me just get a ship because you're going to have a few more slots. It's going to look something like this. This will be your beginner basic crew. It's super because what you're doing is you giving yourself hull breach, which is going to increase hull breach as a base stat, gives 150% crit damage. Con is going to increase your crit chance as the armada goes, as the event goes, or the Chimera goes later on. You'll get 100% crit chance. You'll be hitting with big crit damage each time. Kala also increases critical damage of kinetic weapons, so that's more for kinetic based ships, but interceptors, battleships, they all use, even explorers do have kinetic weapons, so it's not irrelevant. Then, the next crew that you'll move on to this is if you have Tolra. Tolra's officer ability no locked doors. Increases weapon, has a chance to increase weapon shots versus armadas and invading entities. Now this doesn't work with hostiles and armadas, so no, it doesn't work. No, but invading entity, Chimera is an invading entity, so this works. And what this lets you do is high roll that high damage round, which is what you're sort of looking for. You're not necessarily looking for the same consistent damage. You don't mind if it's like if there's a chance for high rolling. What you actually want is like some super high roll, because what you can do with her is, because it works for 2 rounds, you could have this 40% proc, and then you could have it proc in another one, and you could have 200% extra shots for that second round if she procs back to back. So she's like an amazing officer, and you don't need to have her as captain. You can have her as an officer. You could do something like this. This is a super crew. This is very nice. And then as you sort of go on, I'll talk about below decks in a little bit later. As you sort of go on a little bit, and you find between your Ceratops buff and your Titan buff and your research, you're gonna hit 100% critical strike without con, and then you can look for another officer here. Now, what you'd end up looking towards something like anything that has crit damage, anything that has added damage, anything that does that kind of stuff. So what we'd look here is you can even go crit damage, and we can add in whatever we're wanting. We could put Uhara here for some extra critical hit damage. You could add whatever you're wanting, really. I find what was I suggesting just now? Um, uh, yeah, I was Khan is only, yeah, yeah, it was Khan. But yeah, any crit damage. So you can put Uhara for crit damage. You can put anything that you want, really, over there. That one is yeah. What you can also do is, if you're finding that you're hitting critical, if you're hitting crits all the time, you can also put something like this. Now this will boost Tora's ability by an additional 120%, so she will then proc each time. This is a very strong crew, and this is the crew that I generally use, but it requires you to have all of your Titan research done and all of your Ceratops research done. And then, if you're short on crit strike, you can add someone like Veil. She adds crit strike below, just to get those last few percentages. Alright, so this will be the end goal of the this will be the end, kind of like your once you've got all your research up, and once you've maxed your critical strike chance on your Titan and your critical strike chance on your Ceratops. Cool. Now to talk about a bit of below decks. Veil is super if you can have her. She gives you a critical strike chance below decks. Then there's also there is, I think he gives, no, O'Hara can give you some, if you've got her, she can give you some Apex, but you don't need it. There's critical strike damage, as we said, looking for critical strike damage. Repair can also be good. Nurse doesn't work. It'll be versus hostiles only, as we said. It only works versus armadas and hostiles. If something says armadas and hostiles. Tom Paris is important, since if you're not running Bev, because you're wanting to have mitigation. So he's probably one of the most important ones to last out the thing. And then you're wanting to have those kind of officers. I'd say Veil is probably next important. Then, depending on your level of Torres, mine is tier 4, so it's 60%. But as I said, you are just looking for a high roll, so you don't mind it not proccing too often. So if you've got like a tier 3 BLT, it's also really good. I would add it in as well. Giving that hull breach gives you 150% crit. Then things like Odo work. Tendi will work. Mariner will give you damage. It's a decent officer to add in if you need shield. But these are the officers that I would sort of look towards. I don't think there's any other ones potentially that I'd necessarily want. There might be a few that I don't have, but these are sort of the important ones that I would include, just like that. And that's sort of how my setup for doing the chimeras would work. Remember, if you low on defense, you can also just add a defense officer for to give Tom Paris more defense stats, which is mitigation. Also, in this case, it'll also give Bev mitigation, stuff like that. This, remember, is an end boss crew. Only once you've got max crit, but your general crew is going to be looking very much just Gorkon. Let's go strength. It'll be something like this, and then con. And that's what your crew will look like for maximum damage. Then for maximum survive, killing the thing is the best survive. So I would suggest going for the same crew, but just really make sure that you have max mitigation with Tom Paris and a solid defense stat crew there. If you don't have these slots, if you only have like 4 slots, something like this, if you have 3 slots even, something like that, I would do that. Cool, I hope this helps a lot. You guys can keep asking questions, and happy to help.